Today I'm going to talk about the melody and harmony development through music history periods. First, I will explain you some concepts, and I will start with this one. What is a melody? A melody is a sequence of notes that are played in an horizontal way. As you can see in this partiture, they're horizontal and are individual each one. I'm going to give you an example. That's simple. That's a melody. Now, what is harmony? Harmony is when you play two or more notes at the same time. This is something harmonic, more than two sounds at the same time. But the harmonic function is to take a root or to take the melody or the song to give them like an emotional sense. Yeah? It's like the capital of the music, the harmony. Now, what is a tonality? Tonality are composed by 7 notes. You can count 8 notes if you are counting the tonic, but in the next octave. But a tonality are notes in a specific order, so they have a character. We have a major tonality and a minor tonality. A major tonality has a sound, a happy sound. And I'm gonna play now C major. It sounds happy, right? Now I'm going to play C minor. It sounds more sad, more blue. Now, what is a chord? A chord is compounded by 3 notes. There are chords that are made of more than 3 notes, but I'm going to be more specific in those chords that have 3 notes. 3 notes from the same tonality. If the notes are not of the same tonality, it's probable that the chord is not going to sound good. So I'm going to play C major, that comes from the C major scale. This is the C major chord, it's happy. And now I'm going to play C minor from the C minor scale. It has like a melancholic sound. This is major, this is major, this is minor, minor, major. You know the difference between them. Now, what are the grades? As I told you, a tonality has 7 notes. Each note is a grade. Each grade has a function. There are 3 principal functions. The tonic, that is the base of a tonality, like the rest. If we are in C major, this is the rest of the tonality. We have the dominant, that is the tension. This is the tension. That is usually the 5th grade, as you can see. And we have the subdominant, that is usually, in the bases. The 4th grade, that is the balance between the tonic and the dominant, between tension and the rest, like the pass between them. I'm gonna make a sequence so you can understand, and I will say what I'm playing. This is tonic, this is subdominant. To arrive to the dominant, super tension. And I'm going to go then to the tonic. Those are the principal grades that we use. 1st, 5th, 4th, 5th, 1st. But there are lots of more grades that are not used. I'll explain you that later. But now that you understand that, I'm going to introduce you to the Baroque area. The major exponents of this area are Johann Sebastian Bach, Francesca Caccini, and Palestrina. That is one of the greatest exponents of the chorals. I'll give you some characteristics of these periods. In this period, the polyphony, what I mean with polyphony, is the presence of lots of melodies that are playing at the same times. So I can say right now that in the Baroque area, the melody was predominant, and the harmony, because harmony is always present in music, was in function of the melody, right? In this area, it's important to know that it was super important, the vocal works, the voices, singers. And this music in this period was divided in religious music and in popular music. You can understand that. Now, I will give you some characteristics of this period. In this period, we recognize the tonality, we have some rules, We have some, I don't know, some counterpoints, what I told you about the polyphony, the basso continuo, that is to have in the left hand not chords, as I told you, not chords, but yes, notes that can form melodies. So there is a melody in each hand. Other characteristics were, as I told you, the vocal predominant, the use of ornaments. We have trinos. Yeah, we have. It's so ornament. Now I'm going to play a prelude from the book number 1 of the well-tempered book from Johann Sebastian Bach. And it's the prelude number 5, and then I'm going to explain you what are the characteristics of this piece. Okay? This is a little part. In this part we can see what I told you, the bass continuum. There is not a chord completely. And as you can see, in just a little part, the melody was going through lots of tonalities. It's so movable. Yes? Now, the famous forms were the preludes, the one that I just played, the toccatas, the chorales, the canons, the fugues, and the operas. Another important thing that I would like you to recall in this part are the ornaments. And I will play like the end of this prelude, in which we use lots of these ornaments and frilly styles and improvisations. I'll play, you will see. Now we have what I told you before. We have this great soul presence, 5th grade and tonic. Now I'm going to be more specifically in the chorals way. Chorals forms are this music, just write it for voices, for different voices. We have basso, we have tenor, we have altus, cantatus, and I'm going to show you an explanation of this Lutheran choral from Palestrina. You will listen, lots of voices as here. Okay, that's a choral basically. I just wanted to show you the vocal works of this age. Now the canon. The canon is an interesting way of composition in which you have a central theme, and that theme it's going to be repeated by the other voices, but not at the same time. It's going to be desfaced. So you will start with a melody, and then the same melody would be played, but a time after, and it sounds good. It's so mathematical, this thing, because each note has to be with the corresponding note that can create a good harmony, and it's not like dissonant for your ears. We're going to listen a canon from Johann Sebastian Bach, and I will try you to guide you in this partiture. Oh, wait a second. Well, as you can see, this pink section is the same pink sections of this, and it's the same pink section of this. So we have the same melody in all voices, because there are lots of voices, but with a desfacé. So this is incredible composition of this area. Now we have the fugue. The fugue is so interesting piece that is similar, as I told you, is polyphony. We have a central theme that is called the subject. Then we have the answer that is the same theme but in the 5th grade. And then we have the counter subject. It's like a fight between the subject, the answer, counter subject, and in the structural way is so regular. We have an exposition, we have a divertimento that is like a development of the central theme. This is a fugue number 5 from the same book that I told you from back, and I'm going to play like this, just the subject and the answer. The subject is this melody. This is in D major, and the 5th grade of D major is A major, and in on the other hand, we have the same melody in A major. You got it? It's the same melody but in the fifth greater tonality. Now, I will start with the classicism. This period is important, and the most important composers of this period are obviously Mozart, Joseph Haydn, and Mariana von Martinez. In this period, there is a predominance of the harmonic functions. Right here, for this area, we have that the orchestra has like a predominance. We start having forms like concerts, symphonies. We have the sonata form that is so important for this period. We have operas, serenatas, and another kinds of composition forms. Now, these specific characteristics are like the homophony. What do I mean with homophony? The melody and the harmony go with the hand. They go to the same way. The harmony is in function of the melody in this case. But it's important to recall, as I said before in the Baroque, there was, I say the same, I know, but it's important to recall that in this part is not polyphony, it's homophony. That means that there are chords in the left hand. I give you an explanation, no, I'll give you an example of a famous first movement of the sonata key 545 from Mozart. As you can see, both are in the same chord and are doing the same. You will see. This is basically playing chords in a melodic way, but playing chords is not notes like notes making another melody. No, they are a chord. You know, it's the same thing. So, well, in classicism, they were so strict with forms. Yeah. The use of the functional groups that I told you before, the tonics with dominant and tonic, were so important, and it was, I can say, it wasn't a good scene to use another progressions as not the populars. So I'm gonna talk about the sonata round. Sonata is a way of composition, and I call right here because it's so important for the piano. In the sonata we have three movements. We have the first movement, that is allegro. Before explaining you each movement, I will tell you. The purpose of the sonata is to show in three songs, because movements are songs, three different characters of emotions that the song wants to express. For example, the first movement usually in most of the sonatas is allegro. So it means that the speed or tempo or character is happy, is fast. Not as fast as the last, but it's fast. I'll give you an example. That's an example of a first movement. It's not that fast, but it's not that slow. Another example, no, I'm not giving you examples. We're gonna keep. We have the second movement that is usually the slowest one, like more sad, more melancholic, is slow. For example. That's a second movement, more sad, more slow. And we have the third movement, that is usually the shortest one, but is the fastest one. It's one of the most difficult. We have, yeah. Or we have, and as you can see in this part, and it's curious because you might think that, wait, you say that this kind of music has more chords and this is so melodic. Yeah, it's so melodic, but it's just one melody. Both hands, both voices are in function of the same theme. There are no two teams playing at the same time as we talk about the Baroque. It's just one melody and both hands are supporting this. Obviously, all the melodies have a harmonic sense, and in this case, the melody goes to the same place. There are no two voices fighting. It's just once. The sonata form is so important because most of the music are developing in this way. We have the exposition, that is the same thing, like a theme. We have the development, as I told you before, as the divertimento. It's the moment in which you can go through different scales, you can transport a melody to another tonality, and then it's like it's the most free part of the song. And at the end we have the recapitulation. That is basically the exposition, but in another tonality, usually in the 5th grade. So it's important to recall this form. Before going more far, I like to make a conclusion to the classical period. We can get, as I told you, that in the classical period, both harmony and melody go to the same place. There is a melodic predominance because the melody guides the song, but there are not two melodies. So we can say this is a balance between them. Now we're going to the Romantic period. This period has great exposure as Chopin, as Schubert, as Clara Schumann, as the Mendelssohn's brothers. We have lots of composers from this area, and this area is so important. And I will have to say here Beethoven, because Beethoven is like that bridge between the classicism and romanticism. In this period, we don't have that much rules. We obviously have harmonic rules, music has to sound good. But there are not too much structural rules. In this period, the most important thing is the expression. What you want to express with the dynamics, and I'm gonna show you the most important characteristics of this period musically. The harmony is amplified, and we have the use of the resonance. What I mean with resonance? In the Romantic period, we had the pedal. This function that is awesome. The resonance. It's so important. We have, as I told you, the expressivity. We have wide forms. We are more free in the forms. We have more expression, more development. We have chromatism. That's so important because that was not so well seen in the classicism. That is curious because in the Baroque area there were some parts that were improvised, but in the classicism nothing had to be improvised. Everything had to be pre. And chromatism are a good explanation of this kind of improvisation. I'm gonna show you what is chromatism. Chromatism is so curious because it's not a tonality. It's just I'll play it. It's like the whole notes, chromatism, going up and going down without in a specific tonality. These tools were so important in this period. We have the dynamics, and they came up with a good intention because in this period the interpretation of the music was so important. So we have, for example, fortissimo, but we have piano things too that are not louder. So the expression was the most important thing. As you can see right here, this means the pedal, resonance, and this means forte and piano. Now, romantic forms. Romantic forms were so diverse. We had impromptus, we had valses, we had serenatas, we had fantasies, we had lots of composition forms. And as you can see in this picture, there are lots of colors because there are not so specific sections. There are lots of things that are different harmonies in the same place. It's so interesting. And I like to recall that in this part, the harmony has a good intention because romantic music is not homophonic. It's heterophonic. What does it mean? The harmony and the melody can do things totally different. No one is in function of the other. There are lots of pieces that have this freedom, and you can watch different chords right here and different chords right here, and it sounds good. It's so free. Well, as I told you, the dynamics were important. As you can see, this is a partiture from the H. We have the pedal, we have forte, we have piano, the dynamics as I told you. And I would like to play a little part of one impromptu from Schubert. Okay. Pay attention to the dynamics. Just in this part, we transport the dynamics and we had different intentions. And I'll play another example so you can understand better. Yes? Did you listen to that? The resonance. As a conclusion now, because we don't have more time, I would like to tell you these things. Harmony and melody have only been fighting in these periods. We start from the Baroque area, in which there was a polyphony. The melody was the dominant. Then we pass to a classical period in which there is homophony. There is like a balance between the melody and harmony. And then we start having chords in our left hand. And there at the last time we have the Romantic era, the Romanticism, in which we have a friendly thing, a new exploration of the harmony, and we have a heterophony. So this is crazy. Now things have changed. We have found like new music in the contemporary music, and we have found that maybe both of them can be friends, and it can sound or not good. But I'm not gonna extend to them more in music. And I'm gonna say goodbye with a meme and say thanks you for listening to me.